Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. Have a great day.
He's desperate to believe someone young could love him. That's his weakness. The older they get, the easier they fall. Those were my wife's words to her lover in a video she forgot to delete. I'm 54 years old. She's 36. They think I know nothing. In 3 weeks. They plan to take everything I built in 30 years and vanish. But I didn't confront them. I played along. And what I discovered next made my blood run cold. My name is David Sterling. 2 years ago, I sold my tech consulting company in Seattle for $8.2 million and retired at 52. My wife Mia thought it was a wonderful idea. Looking back, I realized she was just positioning the pieces. The evening of my 54th birthday started perfectly. Mia prepared dinner at home, something she rarely did. Garlic and wine filled our downtown condo, candles on the table, jazz from the ceiling speakers. She even gave me an expensive watch I'd mentioned months earlier. I felt grateful, lucky, loved. After dinner, my phone died. I needed to check an email, so I asked to borrow her laptop. She was loading the dishwasher and waved toward the bedroom. "Take it," she said. Passwords the same. I carried it to the living room and opened her email application. As I was switching to the browser, I accidentally clicked her video recording folder. The application launched, showing saved recordings. The most recent file was dated 3 hours earlier. The thumbnail showed Mia in our bedroom during a video call, but her expression was different. Cold. Calculating. I clicked play. A male voice came through the speakers. Young and casual. "Babe, I've been thinking about the timeline. Are we sure 3 weeks is enough?" I recognized him immediately. Kyle Patterson, 29 years old, personal trainer, Mia's supposed friend from college. He came to our home twice weekly for her workouts. I'd met him a dozen times. Nice guy. I'd thought. Mia's voice responded, steady and assured. 3 weeks is perfect. The retirement party's already planned. Everyone's expecting him to sign the estate consolidation papers that night. Richard won't question anything because he trusts me completely. Richard. My name in her mouth. Discussed like a problem to be solved. They continued talking. Kyle asked about someone named Derek, and Mia explained Derek was handling financial transfers through his company. They discussed account numbers and wire schedules with the familiarity of people who'd planned this for months. Kyle mentioned the lake house. Mia laughed. "That's already done. The quitclaim deed is ready. The day after the party, we file it, and the property transfers to my name. Then we're gone." I sat motionless, watching my wife plot the theft of everything I owned. Then Kyle said something that truly broke me. What if he figures it out? What if someone warns him Mia's laugh was soft, dismissive? He won't. Richard's desperate to believe someone young could love him. That's his weakness. The older they get, the easier they fall. He's so worried about seeming old or unattractive that he ignores every red flag. I could probably tell him directly, and he'd rationalize it. The video ended. 3 minutes and 42 seconds that dismantled 4 years of my life. I sat in silence. The jazz still played. Candles still burned. The watch she'd given me still circled my wrist. From the kitchen, I heard Mia humming as she cleaned. Comfortable because she believed I suspected nothing. My hands stayed steady as I opened the screen recording function. I played the video again and captured every second. Saved it to a cloud drive she couldn't access. Closed everything. Returned the laptop to exactly where I'd found it. I walked back to the kitchen where my wife stood drying a wine glass. She looked up and smiled. "Did you get what you needed?" I smiled back. "I did. Thank you." She set down the glass and kissed me. "Happy birthday, David. I'm so grateful for you." I held her and said the words she expected, while my mind calculated the next 3 weeks with cold precision. I'd built a company from nothing using strategy and patience. Now I'd use those same skills to protect everything I owned. That night, lying beside her in darkness, I made my decision. I wouldn't confront her. I wouldn't give her the chance to adapt or escape or manipulate me into doubting what I'd seen. I would become what she never expected: patient, strategic, absolutely ruthless about protecting what was mine. She had underestimated me because of my age. She'd mistaken gratitude for blindness, affection for stupidity. She thought desperate old men were easy marks. She was about to learn how wrong she was. The next 3 weeks would be the performance of my life. Every smile, every touch, every loving word would be calculated. I'd attend her retirement party. I'd stand beside her in front of everyone we knew. And when the moment came for me to sign those papers, I'd show her exactly what happens when you underestimate a man who spent 30 years outmaneuvering people in boardrooms. But first, I needed to understand the full scope of what I was dealing with. Starting with Kyle and this Derek person, and exactly how much of my money they'd already stolen. I had 3 weeks to build my case, 3 weeks to gather evidence, 3 weeks to ensure that when I finally made my move, there would be no escape, no second chances, no room for them to talk their way out of what they'd done. The old David Sterling would have confronted them immediately, driven by emotion and hurt pride. But that man died the moment I heard my wife call me a desperate old man. The person lying in that bed, pretending to sleep beside the woman who'd betrayed him, was someone new, someone colder, someone who understood that the best revenge isn't emotional. It's surgical. I lay beside my wife that night, our bodies inches apart, separated by a truth she didn't know I carried. The bedroom was dark except for the faint glow of Seattle through our windows. Mia's breathing was steady beside me. She'd fallen asleep within minutes, her hand resting on my chest in a gesture that once felt affectionate but now felt like ownership. I didn't move her hand. I lay perfectly still and let my mind work through everything I'd learned, testing each piece against my memory, looking for patterns I'd been too blind to see. The video kept playing in my head. 3 weeks is perfect. Richard won't question anything because he trusts me completely. She was right. I'd given her complete trust. I'd been so eager to prove the age difference didn't matter, that I was still vital and desirable, that I'd ignored every warning sign. My daughter Sarah had tried to tell me 8 months ago over Sunday brunch in Capitol Hill. "Dad, she's using you. She's isolated you from everyone who cares about you. She convinced you to sell the company, liquidate investments, simplify everything. Can't you see what she's doing?" I'd been furious. I told Sarah she was jealous, that she couldn't accept me being happy. I'd left without finishing my coffee. We hadn't spoken since 8 months of silence because I'd chosen Mia's version over my daughter's instincts. Sarah had been right about everything. My business partner Marcus had raised concerns when I first started dating Mia. "Be careful. David. Move slowly. Protect yourself." I'd laughed it off. Marcus was divorced twice and naturally suspicious. Even my ex-wife Jennifer had warned me. When I told her I was remarrying, she'd said, I hope she makes you happy. David, just please get a prenuptial agreement. I'd gotten one, a solid prenup drafted by one of Seattle's best attorneys, but we'd torn it up. On our second anniversary, Mia brought it up over dinner at Canlis. She'd been tearful, vulnerable. If you really love me, if you really believe in us, we shouldn't need this paper between us. Real marriage is complete trust. I'd been drunk on expensive wine and the vanity of a 52-year-old man being told by his beautiful younger wife that she wanted nothing except him. I signed the dissolution paperwork. Mia filmed it on her phone, calling it romantic. Now I understood. She'd filmed it as insurance, proof I'd voluntarily removed the one legal protection between her and everything I owned. Every major financial decision suddenly snapped into focus. Selling my company early. The joint checking account. Consolidated investments. The lake house deeded in her name. All of it had been her idea. All presented as signs of healthy marriage. I'd gone along because I'd been terrified of seeming controlling or suspicious. She'd played me perfectly. Beside me, Mia shifted in her sleep, her arm draping across my chest. I forced myself not to flinch, not to pull away. This was going to be the hardest part. Lying beside her night after night, pretending everything was normal while rage and shame churned beneath every word. I'd spent 30 years in business negotiations, keeping my face neutral while calculating 3 moves ahead. I'd built a company by understanding that whoever shows their hand first loses. Every lesson from those boardrooms would come back now. Mia thought I was weak because of my age, my gratitude for her attention, my fear of being alone. She thought desperate old men were easy to manipulate. She was about to learn the difference between weakness and strategy. I had 3 weeks before the retirement party. 3 weeks to understand their complete plan. 3 weeks to document everything. 3 weeks to ensure that when I confronted them, there would be nowhere to run. But I needed to answer one question eating at me. Was any of it real? Had she ever felt anything genuine? Or had everything been performance from the first moment I needed to know because it would determine how ruthless I was willing to be? Dawn broke over Elliott Bay. Mia stirred, smiling when she saw I was awake. "Good morning," she murmured, kissing my shoulder. "Did you sleep well, like a baby?" I lied. "I have a workout with Kyle this morning," she said. "He's coming by at 9. Will you be here?" "Probably heading to the gym myself," I said, "trying to keep up with you." She laughed and kissed me again before heading to the shower. I waited until I heard water running. Then I got dressed and left. But I didn't go to the gym. I drove to a coffee shop in Fremont and sat in a corner booth with a notebook, writing everything I remembered from the video. Every name, every detail, every timeline. Then I pulled out my phone and stared at a contact I hadn't called in 8 months. Sarah answered on the 3rd ring. Her voice was cautious. "Dad, Sarah." I said, "I need to tell you something. You were right. About everything. And I need your help." There was a long silence. Then I heard her voice crack slightly. "I'm listening." I told her about the video, about what I'd discovered, about the 3 weeks I had before they executed their plan, about how I'd ignored her warnings and cut her out of my life because I'd been too proud and too desperate to admit she might be right. When I finished, she was quiet for a moment. Then she said something that made my throat tighten. "I never stopped being your daughter, Dad. And I never stopped trying to protect you, even when you wouldn't let me." Can you meet me today? I asked. She didn't hesitate. I'll be there in an hour. And Dad, we're going to fix this. I hung up and sat in that coffee shop booth, watching morning traffic build on the street outside, and felt something I hadn't felt since I'd watched that video the night before. Hope. Not hope that my marriage could be saved, or that Mia might somehow have a reasonable explanation. That was gone. But hope that I wasn't as alone as I'd felt lying in that bed beside a woman who saw me as nothing more than a target. My daughter was coming, and together, we were going to make sure that Mia and Kyle learned a lesson they'd never forget. The performance had begun, and I was going to give the performance of my life. Kyle came over that afternoon. My wife's lover, in my home, drinking my coffee, pretending to be my friend. I'd returned from meeting Sarah around noon, giving myself time to compose my face before Mia got back. She'd texted twice asking where I was. At the gym. I'd replied. She sent back a heart emoji. When I walked through the door, she was unloading groceries. She smiled, genuinely pleased to see me. Good workout, great. I lied. Kyle's coming by at 2 for our session, she said. I showered and changed, then positioned myself in the living room with my laptop. I needed to see them together now that I knew the truth. Kyle arrived at exactly 2 o'clock. Hey, David, he said, gym bag over his shoulder. He was 29, physically fit, confident in the way young men are when they think they're smarter than everyone around them. Mia appeared in workout clothes. You don't have to stay, babe. We'll be loud. I'll just be here working, I said. They set up in our spare room. For the next hour, I observed through the open door. Kyle spotted Mia during sets, his hands on her waist. They took breaks to chat and laugh. I noticed how she looked at him when he wasn't watching, how he touched her shoulder. How had I missed this? Because she'd told me Kyle was gay. Early in our marriage, she'd mentioned casually that he was her friend from college and gay, and I shouldn't feel weird about another man around the house. I'd accepted it without question. They finished around 3:30. Kyle packed up while Mia grabbed water. I walked over, forcing myself to engage. Good session, I asked. Yeah, man. Mia's making great progress. I appreciate you keeping her healthy. Mia handed Kyle water. Their fingers touched briefly. Small intimacies happening in front of me for months. Actually, Kyle said, I'm thinking of offering couples training packages. You two would be perfect. What do you think I saw what he was doing? Creating more access, more time in our home. That sounds interesting, I said. Though with the retirement party in a few weeks, we're pretty swamped. Maybe after Kyle's expression flickered. Oh, right. The party. 3 weeks away. 2.5? Mia corrected. We've got the venue booked. Invitations out. Big milestone, Kyle said. Retiring at your age. Not many people get to do that. At your age, the implication was clear. I was old enough to retire. Old enough to be managed. I'm lucky, I said. Built something successful. Found someone to share it with. Mia slipped her arm around my waist. I'm the lucky one. Not many men would let Kyle come over so regularly. Some husbands would be jealous. I trust you completely, I said, looking at Kyle. I know you'd never hurt me. Kyle held my gaze. I saw faint contempt, quickly masked. Of course not. Man. He left shortly after. I watched from the window as he walked to his BMW, probably purchased with money my wife had funneled from our accounts. After he drove away, Mia wrapped her arms around me. You okay? You seem quiet. Just thinking about the party, I said. It's going to be perfect. David. Everything we've built together. I stood in her embrace, looking at Seattle's skyline. 2.5 weeks of watching Kyle come here, knowing what he was. That evening, after Mia fell asleep, I pulled up our credit card statements. I'd given Mia access to everything, trusting her completely. Now I examined the details I'd never bothered checking. There it was. A secondary card issued under our joint account. Statements going back 18 months. Charges at high-end men's stores. Luxury goods. Restaurant bills for two at places Mia and I had never been. Hotel rooms in cities where she'd claimed to be visiting her sister. $800 at a men's boutique. $1,200 at jewelry stores. 5 nights at a Whistler resort during her supposed yoga retreat. She'd been funding Kyle's lifestyle for at least 18 months. My money paying for their romantic getaways while I worked and trusted and played the grateful older husband. I downloaded everything to an encrypted folder. Then I searched for forensic accountants in Seattle. If there was one card I didn't know about, there might be more. My phone buzzed. Sarah texting. Dad. I know someone who can help. A private investigator who specializes in financial fraud. Can I set up a meeting? I typed back immediately. Yes. As soon as possible. Tomorrow morning. 10 a.m. I'll send you the address. I looked at Mia sleeping peacefully. She had no idea the house of cards was about to collapse. She thought she was 3 weeks from everything she wanted. She was actually 3 weeks from losing everything she'd tried to steal. My phone lit up again. This time, the family phone plan notification. A text between Mia and Kyle, visible because I was the account administrator. Kyle's message. That was close today. I think he suspects something. Mia's response. He doesn't suspect anything. He's too desperate to keep me happy. 2 more weeks and we're done with this. Kyle. What about the lake house deed Mia already handled? Filed next Friday. By the time he figures it out, we'll be gone. I screenshot the conversation and added it to my evidence folder. Then I lay back down beside my wife. Careful not to wake her. The ghost in my house wasn't supernatural. It was truth, haunting every room. Invisible to everyone but me. But I was done being haunted. Time to become the hunter. Dad, I need you to listen. I know you don't want to hear this, but I have proof. Sarah's voice cracked as she said those words. We sat across from each other in a Fremont coffee shop, halfway between her Capitol Hill apartment and my downtown condo. Neutral territory for a conversation 8 months overdue. The morning rain had left the streets wet and gray. I'd arrived early, watching the door until my daughter walked through at exactly 10 o'clock. She looked older than I remembered. 28 now, but carrying the weariness that comes from being proven right about something you wished you were wrong about. When she saw me in the corner booth, her expression was careful. Guarded. I stood as she approached. She hesitated before letting me hug her. It lasted only seconds, but it was more contact than we'd had in 8 months. Hi, Dad, she said quietly, sliding into the booth. Hi, sweetheart. Thank you for coming. She ordered coffee, then pulled a manila folder from her bag and set it between us. Her hands shook slightly. I hired a private investigator a year ago, she said. When Mia started pushing to remove me from your will, that's when I knew something was wrong. A year ago. My daughter had been trying to protect me for a year while I'd accused her of jealousy. Sarah. I started, but she held up her hand. Let me get through this first. Please. She opened the folder. The first page was a photograph showing a younger Mia standing next to Kyle. They were dressed formally, Kyle's arm around her waist, both smiling with genuine happiness. This was taken 5 years ago, Sarah said, at their engagement party in Portland. I stared at the photo, engaged. Mia and Kyle had been engaged a year before I'd even met her. The breakup was staged. Sarah continued. They never actually ended their relationship. The investigator found their old social media accounts before they scrubbed them. Photos, posts, everything showing they were a couple from 2018 through 2020. She pulled out more pages, bank statements, property records, court documents. There was someone before you. Dad. Doctor. Raymond Chen. Retired orthopedic surgeon in Portland. He met a woman named Michelle at a charity gala in 2019. They married after 6 months. Michelle had a business partner named Kyle. Within a year, Dr. Chen lost $2.1 million and his vacation home. Michelle and Kyle disappeared. Sarah slid another photograph across. Same woman, different hair. Unmistakably Mia. Michelle was Mia. Same person, different name. Dad. You're not the first. You're part of a pattern. The coffee shop sounds faded. The hiss of espresso machines, murmur of conversations, rain outside. All became distant as I processed what my daughter was telling me. Doctor. Chen filed for divorce but never pressed charges. Sarah said. Too ashamed. He gave up $2 million because he couldn't stand the humiliation. Why didn't you show me this before? I tried. Dad. Remember that brunch 8 months ago I tried to tell you, but you wouldn't listen. You said I was jealous. You walked out before I could show you anything. The memory came back with painful clarity. My daughter trying to warn me, and me shutting her down because I'd been too proud, too desperate to believe Mia could genuinely love me. I'm sorry, I said. Sarah, I'm so sorry. She took my hand. I know, and I forgive you. But right now, we need to focus on stopping them. I told her about the video, the 3-week timeline, the estate consolidation papers, the intercepted text messages. Sarah listened without interrupting, her expression growing more concerned. When I finished, she said, the investigator I hired, Mike Torres, specializes in financial fraud. I called him this morning. He can meet us at 2 this afternoon. I'll be there. There's one more thing. Dad. 3 days ago, Mia visited an estate planning attorney. Not yours. A different one. She's setting up legal framework to transfer everything into her name the day after your party. So the party is definitely when it happens. That's their timeline. You sign papers at the party in front of everyone, making it look legitimate. Next day, she files everything and initiates transfers. By the time you realize what happened, they're gone and your money is offshore. I thought about Dr. Chen, too ashamed to fight back. How close I'd come to being exactly like him. I'm not going to let that happen, I said. I know. And you're not going alone. We're doing this together. She pulled out another photo, Mia and Kyle at a resort by a pool, drinks in hand. The metadata showed it was taken 6 months ago during Mia's supposed yoga retreat. There are dozens more, Sarah said. Hotels, restaurants, trips, all funded by your cards. Mike traced at least $340,000 transferred from your accounts over 18 months. Most went to shell companies Kyle controls. $340,000. Gone. What about the lake house? Already filed. Sarah said, the property transferred into Mia's name 2 weeks ago, when you gave it to her for her birthday. Paperwork went through last month. Technically, it's hers now. Can we get it back? Maybe, if we prove fraud. But we need to move fast. I looked at my daughter, at the evidence she'd spent a year gathering while I'd shut her out. Thank you, I said, for not giving up on me. You're my dad. I was never going to stop protecting you. Sarah's phone buzzed. She glanced at it, her expression changing. Dad, where did you tell Mia you were going? Breakfast meeting with a potential client. Why she just texted Kyle. Sarah showed me David's acting weird. He left early and won't say where. Keep an eye on things. They're suspicious, I said, which means we need to be even more careful. From now on. Assume they're watching everything. I nodded, feeling the weight of the performance I'd have to maintain for 2.5 more weeks. 2:00 meeting with Mike, Sarah said, standing. Between now and then, go home and act completely normal. Can you do that? I've been doing it for 2 days. I said, I can do it for 18 more. We left together and stood on the wet sidewalk, rain falling again. I love you, Sarah. I love you too. Dad, we're going to fix this. I promise. She hugged me tightly. Then we went our separate ways, and I drove home to continue the performance of my life. Doctor. Raymond Chen opened his door, and I saw my future staring back at me. A man who'd been where I was standing, except he hadn't seen it coming in time. Sarah and I had driven to Portland that afternoon, leaving right after our coffee meeting. The 2-hour drive down Interstate 5 gave us time to prepare for what we were about to hear. Dr. Chen lived in a modest apartment in the Pearl District, a significant downgrade from the mansion he'd once owned. Sarah had called ahead, explaining who we were. To his credit, he'd agreed immediately. He was 65 now, gray-haired and thin, wearing a cardigan too big for his frame. When he saw me, recognition flickered across his face. Not of me specifically, but of what I represented. Another victim. Mr. Sterling, he said quietly. Please, come in. The apartment was small but tidy. Books lined one wall. A single photograph sat on the side table showing a younger doctor. Chen with a woman who wasn't Mia, his first wife, before Michelle came into his life. Thank you for seeing us, I said. Your daughter explained the situation. He gestured to the couch. I've been waiting for years for someone else to show up with the same story. We sat. Sarah pulled out her folder. But Doctor... Chen waved it away. I know what's in there. I've seen my own version. Tell me what happened. I said, Doctor. Chen leaned back, his eyes distant. I met Michelle in April of 2019 at a charity gala. I was 59, recently divorced, feeling old and irrelevant. She was 32, beautiful, and she made me feel seen. We dated 6 months. She was attentive, understanding, interested in everything about my work. She suggested I deserved to enjoy my success more. Looking back, it was reconnaissance. When did Kyle appear? Sarah asked. About 3 months in. Michelle introduced him as her business partner. He was charming, professional, full of ideas about investment opportunities. He suggested I consolidate my assets, simplify my portfolio. It all sounded reasonable. And you trusted him because you trusted her. I said, exactly. We got married in October. By January, I'd liquidated most investments and moved everything into accounts Michelle had access to. By March, I woke up one morning and it was gone. $2.1 million. My vacation home. Even my car was in her name. Did you go to the police? He shook his head. I was too ashamed. A doctor admitting I'd been conned by a woman young enough to be my daughter, I filed for divorce, signed papers giving up any claim, and tried to pretend it never happened. Sarah leaned forward. Did they isolate you from friends and family? All the time. Michelle always had reasons to skip gatherings with my colleagues. She'd get upset if I spent time with my adult children. She convinced me they were jealous, couldn't accept me moving on from their mother. By the end, I was completely isolated. The pattern was identical. Every manipulation, every lie, there's something else. Doctor, Chen said, his voice dropping. About a month before they disappeared, Michelle started suggesting I take up sailing. She circled boats in magazines, talked about how relaxing it would be. I felt ice in my veins. Why is that significant? Because I'd never sailed in my life. I have an inner ear condition that makes me seasick. Michelle knew that, but she kept pushing. She even contacted an insurance broker about increasing my life insurance policy. The implication hung in the air. If he'd gone along, if he'd had an accident, Michelle would have collected insurance instead of just liquid assets. Did you increase the policy? I asked. No. That's probably why they just took the money and ran. Sarah and I exchanged glances. I thought about Mia suggesting sailing last month, the boat brochures in my study, the $3 million life insurance policy with her as sole beneficiary. They'd learned from Dr. Chen, improved their method. Doctor, Chen walked to his window. I think about her sometimes. Michelle, or whatever her real name is. I wonder how many of us there are, whether anyone will ever stop her. I'm going to stop her, I said. I'm not going to let shame keep me silent. Doctor. Chen turned to face me. Then you're braver than I was. Mr. Sterling, I hope you succeed, and when you do, make them pay for every life they've ruined. We left Portland as the sun was setting. Sarah drove while I stared out the window. My phone buzzed. Text from Mia. Where are you, Kyle and I are making dinner for you. Come home soon. Heart emoji. Sarah glanced at me. Can you do this? Dad. Go back there and pretend I've been pretending for 4 days. I said. I can pretend for 14 more. But as we crossed back into Washington State, I made myself a promise. Doctor. Chen had let shame silence him. I wouldn't make the same mistake. They cooked for me that night. My wife and her lover, side by side in my kitchen, preparing a meal with my money, planning to take everything I had. I'd texted Mia from the car, saying I'd be home by 7. She'd responded immediately. Perfect, Kyle and I are making something special for you. The something special was an elaborate dinner. Filet mignon, roasted vegetables, wine from my collection that cost $300. Candles everywhere. Jazz playing softly. Kyle was still there when I arrived, wearing an apron over his workout clothes, comfortable in my kitchen like he lived there. Hey, David, Mia mentioned you had a rough day, so we thought we'd treat you. That's thoughtful. I said, you didn't have to go to all this trouble. No trouble at all. Man. I went to the bedroom and stood at the sink, staring at my reflection. I looked the same but felt fundamentally changed. I splashed cold water on my face and went back to perform. We sat at the dining table. city lights glittering through the windows. Kyle sat where he'd probably sat dozens of times when I wasn't home. "So how were the meetings?" Mia asked. "Productive," I said. "Some consulting opportunities." "That's great," Kyle said. "It's important to stay engaged even in retirement. Too many guys your age just shut down completely." "Your age." Casual dismissal underneath. The conversation flowed easily. Mia talked about shopping, yoga class. Kyle mentioned a new tech executive client. "Actually," Kyle said, "the retirement party is coming up in 2.5 weeks?" 2 weeks from Friday, Mia corrected. I was thinking it would be great if I could attend. I've been working with Mia for over a year, and I feel like I know you both well. Good networking for my business. If that's not weird, I saw what he was doing, positioning himself to be present when I signed papers, probably as a witness. "Of course you should come," I said. "The more the merrier. Columbia Tower Club. 7 o'clock. Perfect. I'm honored to be included." Mia squeezed my hand. "This is why I love you. You're so generous. Our lives. As if we were a team." The dinner continued. Kyle told stories. Mia laughed. I contributed where expected, playing the successful older man, enjoying an evening. But underneath, I cataloged everything. The way Kyle's hand lingered on Mia's shoulder, the inside jokes, the easy familiarity from spending far more time together than I'd realized. Around 9:30, Kyle left. "I'll see you Thursday," he said to Mia, "and thanks for including me in the party." David. After he left, Mia curled up next to me on the couch. "That was nice. I'm glad we could all spend time together. He's a good guy," I said. "He really is. I'm lucky to have found such a great trainer." She looked up at me. "You seem tired. Just long." I said, "Lots to think about." "Well, the party will be here before we know it, and then we can really start enjoying retirement. No more stress. Just us and our future. Just us and our future." She had no idea how right she was. That night, after she fell asleep, I pulled up the financial records. I added notes about Kyle's attendance, the $300 wine, the casual mention of my age. Every detail mattered. Every conversation was evidence. Every smile was documentation of their confidence. My phone buzzed. "Sarah." "How did it go tonight?" I typed back. "Dinner with Mia and Kyle. They're planning every detail. I'm playing along. 3 dots." Then her response. "Dad, I'm proud of you. 2 weeks. We can do this." I looked at Mia sleeping peacefully beside me. 2 weeks until the party. 14 days of this performance. I'd already made it through 5. I could do 14 more. Marcus had been my forensic accountant for 15 years. He'd helped me sell my company. Now I needed him to show me how it was being stolen from under me. Sarah had arranged the meeting for the following morning at Marcus's office in downtown Seattle. I told Mia I had a consultation about tax planning for retirement, which was close enough to the truth that she didn't question it. Marcus Chen was 58, methodical, and had the kind of mind that could spot financial irregularities the way a radiologist spots tumors on an X-ray. When Sarah and I walked into his office, he already had spreadsheets pulled up on multiple monitors. "David," he said, shaking my hand. "Sarah briefed me yesterday. I've been going through the records you gave her access to. Sit down. You need to see this." We sat across from his desk while he turned one of the monitors toward us. "I've analyzed 4 years of your financial activity," he began. "Joint accounts, credit cards, investment transfers, everything. The The pattern is sophisticated, but once you know what you're looking for, it's clear. He pulled up the first spreadsheet. This is your joint checking account. Established 6 months after you married Mia. Notice the initial deposits were proportional. You put in money from your business income. She contributed from her stated consulting work. I nodded. That's what we agreed on. Except her consulting work didn't exist. Marcus clicked to another screen. I verified every company she claimed to work for. None of them have any record of employing someone named Mia Sterling or her maiden name. The deposits she made into the joint account came from a shell company registered in Delaware. Which means what? Which means she was recycling your money. She'd transfer funds out through various channels, run them through the shell company, then deposit them back into the joint account to create the appearance of contributing. You thought you were building something together. In reality, you were funding the whole thing while she created a paper trail suggesting equal partnership. Sarah leaned forward. What about the $340,000 I mentioned? Marcus pulled up another spreadsheet. This is where it gets worse. Over the past 18 months, there have been systematic transfers to multiple LLCs, small amounts at first, 5,000 here, 10,000 there. Nothing large enough to trigger automatic alerts. But it adds up. He highlighted rows in red. These 6 LLCs all trace back to one individual, Kyle Morrison, also known as Kyle Patterson, also known in some older records as Kyle Westbrook. He's used multiple aliases over the past decade. How much total, I asked. 342,000 and change. Gone. The LLCs are structured in a way that makes recovery difficult but not impossible if we can prove fraud. What about the lake house? Marcus's expression darkened. That's the most problematic piece. The quitclaim deed transferring the property into Mia's sole ownership was filed 3 weeks ago, completely legal on paper. You gifted it to her for her birthday. Can we reverse it if we can prove the entire marriage was fraudulent from the beginning? Maybe. But that's a high bar. We'd need to demonstrate she entered the marriage with the specific intent to defraud you, which means pattern evidence from other victims. We have that. Sarah said, Doctor, Raymond Chen in Portland. Same playbook. That helps. Marcus said, but we need more. We need to show this is a practiced scheme, not just one previous relationship that went bad. What about life insurance, I asked. Marcus pulled up another document. Changed 6 months ago. You're insured for $3 million with Mia as sole beneficiary. Prior to that, your daughter was the beneficiary. I felt Sarah stiffen beside me. I don't remember changing that. I said, You signed the paperwork last March. Marcus showed me a scanned form with my signature at the bottom. Does this look familiar? I stared at it. The signature was mine, but I had no memory of signing it. Look at the date, Marcus said. March 15th. Ring any bells, that was our anniversary trip to Whistler. We'd spent the weekend at a resort, drinking expensive wine, celebrating 2 years of marriage. She had me sign papers during that trip, I said slowly. She told me it was for updating our estate plan, making sure everything was organized. I was drunk. I signed whatever she put in front of me. Power of attorney documents, Marcus asked. I nodded. She said it was standard for married couples. Marcus turned back to his computer. So Mia has power of attorney over your investment accounts, access to all joint funds, ownership of the lake house, and is the sole beneficiary of a $3 million life insurance policy. The full picture was becoming clear. There's one more thing, Marcus said. His voice dropped lower. I found something that concerns me from a pattern perspective. 3 weeks ago, Mia researched boat insurance and contacted a marina about sailing lessons. For you, my blood went cold. Doctor. Chen had mentioned the same thing. Michelle pushing sailing lessons despite his seasickness. Sarah and I looked at each other. You think they were planning something beyond just taking the money? Sarah asked. I think they were keeping their options open, Marcus said. If the retirement party plan didn't work, if you got suspicious before they could execute the financial transfer, they had a backup, a tragic accident, a grieving widow collecting life insurance. How do we protect everything? I asked. We move fast. File emergency asset protection orders. Freeze the accounts she has access to. Remove her as beneficiary on the life insurance. But the moment we do any of that, she'll know you're onto her. That's why we wait, Sarah said. We document everything, build the case, and execute it all at once. At the party, in front of witnesses, Marcus nodded slowly. Risky. But if you pull it off, you protect the assets and have public documentation of her intent. Can you prepare the paperwork? I asked. Everything we need to file the moment I'm ready. I can have it ready in 48 hours. Do it. We left Marcus's office around noon. Sarah and I stood on the sidewalk, traffic flowing past us on 4th Avenue. Dad, she said quietly. They were thinking about killing you. I know. Are you sure you want to keep going back there? You could leave right now. File everything today. Get out. I thought about Mia sleeping peacefully in our bed, confident in her plan. I thought about Kyle joking about guys my age shutting down. I thought about Dr. Chen in his small Portland apartment, too ashamed to fight back. No, I said. I want them to think they've won right up until the moment they lose everything. 2 more weeks. I can do this. Sarah hugged me tightly. Just promise me you'll be careful. No sailing lessons. No being alone in dangerous situations. I promise. I drove back to the condo, where Mia greeted me with a smile and asked how the tax planning went. Fine, I said. Everything's in order. And everything was. Just not in the order she expected. Thomas Whitfield died when his boat exploded on Lake Norman. The investigation ruled it accidental. But Marcus found something the police missed. That evening, after Mia fell asleep, I called Sarah from my office. Marcus sent me something. She said, "You need to see it tonight." My email pinged. Subject line, Charlotte, North Carolina, 2017. The first document was a news article from the Charlotte Observer dated June 2017. Local businessman dies in boating accident. Thomas Whitfield, 56. Died when his boat exploded on Lake Norman. Survived by his wife of 8 months, Maria Whitfield. Next was a photograph of Maria at the funeral, face obscured by sunglasses and veil, but the build and posture matched. Third was a driver's license photo. Maria Elena Whitfield, born 1988. Different hair, different style. Unmistakably Mia. Sarah called. Did you see it? I'm looking at it now. Marcus found the death investigation report. The detective never believed it was accidental. He's retired now. James Crawford. Willing to talk tomorrow. I'll be there. Next morning, I told Mia I had a business lunch. Instead, I met Sarah at a Ballard coffee shop. Detective Crawford was on video call. Mr. Sterling, he said, gray-haired, weathered, late 60s. Your accountant filled me in. I'm sorry this is happening. Thank you for talking to us. Call me James. The Whitfield case bothered me for years. Everything felt wrong, but I couldn't prove anything. Walk me through it. Thomas Whitfield was a successful commercial real estate developer. Widower. Lost his wife to cancer in 2015. Met Maria at a church grief support group early 2016. Married 8 months later. Same timeline as me, almost exactly. After the wedding, Maria convinced Thomas to take up boating. He'd never been on a boat, but she said it would be therapeutic. They bought a cabin cruiser. Maria insisted on large life insurance. $3.5 million, her as sole beneficiary. How long before the accident? 4 months. The boat exploded on a Saturday. Thomas was alone, routine maintenance. Explosion was massive. Barely found enough remains for ID. But you didn't believe it. Too many things didn't add up. Maria pushed him to go out that day despite questionable weather. She'd had the boat serviced by a mechanic we could never track down. Filed insurance within a week. Did she collect $1.8 million? Insurance wasn't happy but couldn't prove anything. Maria left Charlotte 2 weeks later. Vanished. What about Kyle? There was a business partner. Thomas brought him in 2 months after the wedding. Kyle Morrison, mid-20s, investment strategies. Disappeared same time Maria did. Same pattern. Sarah said, James. I said, if I give you evidence this was part of a pattern, would that reopen the investigation? His expression hardened. Are you asking if I want to nail the people who got away with murdering a good man? I've been waiting 7 years. You give me what I need. I'll fly to Seattle tomorrow. We spent an hour going through everything. Portland, financial records, the video of Mia and Kyle. When we finished, James was silent. Mr. Sterling. He finally said, I'm going to be direct. These people are dangerous. They've graduated from theft to murder. If they think you're onto them, they won't hesitate. You're sleeping next to a murderer every night. I have 13 days until the party. I said, I can do it. Then you're braver than I'd be. Promise me no risks, no boats, no isolated locations. I promise. After the call, Sarah said, maybe Crawford's right. Maybe we should move faster. I pulled up the photos. Thomas Whitfield before Maria. His wedding photo. Looking grateful. The explosion article. If we move too fast, they might get away with some of it. I want them to face everything. Portland, Charlotte, what they tried to do to me. Sarah squeezed my hand. Okay. Be careful. I drove home thinking about Thomas Whitfield. How he'd felt lucky. How he'd ignored warning signs. How he took his boat out that Saturday and never came home. When I walked through the door, Mia was in the living room. How was lunch? Good. I said. Productive. She kissed me. You've been so busy lately. I've barely seen you, just getting everything organized before the party. Well, she said, smiling, only 12 more days. Then we can finally relax and enjoy everything we've built together. I held her, feeling her heartbeat, and thought about Thomas Whitfield at the bottom of Lake Norman. 12 more days. Catherine Morrison had handled my divorce from Sarah's mother 15 years ago. Now I needed her to help me survive my second marriage. Sarah made the appointment for the next morning, day 7 after I'd discovered the video. 1 week of living with the truth. 1 week of performing normalcy while building my case. Catherine's office was in a high-rise on 5th Avenue, the kind of space that signaled experience and success. When her assistant showed us into the conference room, Catherine was already there with files spread across the table. She was in her early 60s, sharp-eyed and direct in the way the best attorneys are. She stood and shook my hand. "David, it's been a long time. I wish we were meeting under better circumstances." "So do I." She gestured to the chairs. "Your daughter gave me an overview. I've also spoken with Marcus Chen and reviewed the financial documentation. Before we go further, I need to ask you something important." She sat across from us, hands folded on the table. "Do you want justice or do you want revenge?" I considered the question. "What's the difference?" "Justice is about protecting what's yours and ensuring they face legal consequences. Revenge is about making them suffer. The two aren't always compatible, and revenge can cost you more than it's worth." I thought about Dr. Chen in his modest Portland apartment, too ashamed to fight. I thought about Thomas Whitfield at the bottom of Lake Norman. I thought about every night I'd spent lying beside Mia, performing love while she plotted theft. "I want my dignity back," I said, "and I want to make sure they never do this to anyone else." Catherine nodded. "Good answer. Now let's talk strategy." She pulled up a timeline on her laptop and turned it toward us. "You have 12 days until the retirement party. Here's what we need to accomplish in that time. First, we file emergency asset protection orders. These are sealed, so Mia won't know about them. They freeze all joint accounts and prevent any transfers." "When do we file those?" "The day before the party. Any earlier, and she might notice frozen accounts. Any later, and we risk her moving money the morning of." "What about the life insurance? We file a change of beneficiary immediately." "That one we can do quietly through your insurance company. It takes 48 hours to process. Marcus is handling it today." "The lake house. That's trickier. The deed is already in her name. We'll need to prove the entire marriage was fraudulent to reverse it. That means pattern evidence. The good news is you have it. Dr. Chen in Portland. Thomas Whitfield in Charlotte. Detective Crawford is willing to testify about the similarities. Will that be enough?" Catherine leaned back. "In a civil case, probably. In a criminal case, maybe. The challenge is that marriage fraud is hard to prove unless we can demonstrate she entered the marriage with the specific intent to defraud you from day one." "We have the engagement photos," Sarah said. "Mia and Kyle engaged 5 years ago. They staged a breakup. Then she targeted my father. That shows premeditation. It helps. But we need more. We need to show this is a practiced scheme with multiple victims following the same pattern. Detective Crawford mentioned there might be others." I said, "If Kyle used different aliases, there could be more victims we haven't found yet." Catherine made a note. "I'll have my investigator look into that. The more victims we can document, the stronger our case." "What about criminal charges?" "That's where it gets complicated. Financial fraud. Definitely. Identity fraud. Possibly. The Charlotte case opens the door to murder charges, but that's in North Carolina's jurisdiction. Detective Crawford would need to coordinate with local authorities here. Will they cooperate? If we hand them a well-documented case? Yes. But you need to understand something. David, the moment we initiate legal action, your life becomes public. The retirement party, the confrontation, all of it will likely make news. Can you handle that?" I thought about Mia's words on the video. He's desperate to believe someone young could love him. That's his weakness. The older they get, the easier they fall. The humiliation of the world knowing I'd been conned was nothing compared to the humiliation of letting them get away with it. "I can handle it," I said. "All right. Catherine pulled out a thick folder. Here's what we're going to do. We document everything for the next 11 days. Every conversation, every interaction, every suspicious behavior. You'll wear a wire to the retirement party. A wire. Audio recording. Washington is a two-party consent state for recording, but there's an exception for documenting crimes in progress. If they attempt to have you sign fraudulent documents, that's fraud in progress, and the recording is admissible. Who else needs to be there? Detective Crawford should attend as a witness. Marcus to document the financial fraud. My associate and I will be there with the paperwork ready to file. And Sarah, if you're comfortable, I'll be there, Sarah said firmly. Good. Now, the most important part. Catherine looked directly at me. Between now and the party, you cannot deviate from your normal behavior. No unusual questions about finances. No confronting them about anything. You continue being the trusting husband who suspects nothing. For 11 more days. For 11 more days. Can you do that? I've done it for 7. I can do 11 more. One more thing. Catherine's voice dropped. These people have killed before. We need safety protocols. No boats, no isolated locations. No situations where you're alone with either of them. I'm serious about this. David, I understand. Do you, because Thomas Whitfield understood he was being manipulated financially, but he got on that boat anyway. Don't make his mistake. I won't. Catherine gathered her files. I'll have the asset protection orders ready to file in 48 hours. The recording equipment will be delivered to Sarah's apartment. We'll do a test run 3 days before the party to make sure everything works. What happens after the confrontation? We file everything simultaneously. Asset protection, divorce papers, restraining orders. We coordinate with Detective Crawford to have law enforcement present. If everything goes according to plan, they'll be escorted out in handcuffs. And if it doesn't go according to plan, then we adapt. But David, I've been practicing family law for 30 years. I've seen a lot of ugly divorces. This isn't a divorce. This is organized crime. These people are professionals. Don't underestimate them. I won't. We left Catherine's office just after noon. Sarah and I stood on the sidewalk, watching lunch crowds flow past. You okay? Dad, I will be, in 12 days. My phone buzzed. Text from Mia. Where are you? I was hoping we could have lunch together. I typed back. Just finishing a meeting. Be home in 30 minutes. 3 dots appeared. Can't wait to see you. Heart emoji. Sarah saw the text over my shoulder. How do you do it? How do you read that and not lose it? Because every text, every smile, every I love you is evidence that she thinks I'm still the fool. And in 12 days, I'm going to show her exactly how wrong she is. I drove home where Mia had made sandwiches. We ate lunch together on the balcony, talking about the party, about the future, about all the plans she thought we'd be sharing. And the whole time, I was counting down. 11 more days of this performance. 11 more days until everything changed. Mia stood in the law office lobby, and for the first time in 7 days, I wasn't acting. She knew I knew. It happened on day 8. Catherine had called that morning asking me to stop by her office to sign some preliminary paperwork. Routine, she'd said. Just getting everything ready for filing. I'd told Mia I had a doctor's appointment. She'd barely looked up from her phone. Okay, babe. Feel better. Sarah met me at Catherine's office at 10. We spent an hour going over the asset protection orders, reviewing the timeline, making sure every detail was perfect. When we finished, it was just after 11. I was walking toward the elevator with Sarah when I heard her voice behind me. David, I turned. Mia stood near the reception desk, 20 feet away, staring at me with an expression I couldn't quite read. Surprise, certainly, but something else underneath. Calculation. Mia, I said, keeping my voice neutral. What are you doing here? I could ask you the same thing. She walked toward us, her eyes moving between me and Sarah. I thought you had a doctor's appointment. I did. Finished early. Needed to stop by and see Sarah about something. Mia's gaze shifted to Sarah, and I saw the exact moment she decided to play offense. How interesting. A family meeting without me. Sarah's jaw tightened, but she stayed silent. Estate planning, I said smoothly. Boring legal stuff. Sarah understands the business side better than you do, so I asked her to help review some documents. Estate planning. Mia's tone was carefully neutral, but her eyes were sharp. I thought we were doing that together next week. This is preliminary, I said. Making sure everything's organized before our meeting. A long pause hung between us. The lobby continued its normal business around us. A delivery person walked past. An attorney talked quietly on his phone near the windows. But in our small triangle of space, the air felt dense and dangerous. I didn't know you were coming downtown today, Mia said. Last-minute thing. What about you? What brings you here? She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. Oh, I had an appointment in the building for the esthetician on the 12th floor. Then I saw you getting on the elevator. The building directory showed no esthetician on the 12th floor. I'd checked while waiting earlier. She was lying, and she knew I knew she was lying. Well, I said, small world. Isn't it? She turned to Sarah. It's been a while. How have you been? Fine, Sarah said shortly. I'm glad you two are talking again. Family is so important. Mia reached out and took my hand, especially now, with the baby coming and the party next week. We need everyone together. The baby. The fake pregnancy she'd announced 2 days ago, complete with a positive test I'd already proven was ordered from Amazon. Another manipulation, another lie. Absolutely, I said, squeezing her hand. Family is everything. Mia's phone buzzed. She glanced at it, and something flickered across her face. I need to run. But David, maybe we should talk tonight about your schedule. You've been so busy lately. Of course. I'll be home by 6. Perfect. She kissed my cheek, smiled at Sarah without warmth, and walked toward the elevator. We watched her leave. Neither Sarah nor I moved until the elevator doors closed behind her. She knows something, Sarah whispered. Maybe. Or maybe she's just suspicious because she saw us together. Dad, she wasn't here for an esthetician. She followed you. My phone buzzed. A text, but not from Mia. It was from Kyle to Mia, but visible on my phone because I was the family plan administrator. Kyle's message. He was at a lawyer's office. We need to move fast. Party might be too late. Mia's reply appeared seconds later. I know. I just saw him there with his daughter. Something's wrong. We need to talk tonight. Kyle, should we push it up? Do it this weekend, Mia? Maybe. Let me feel him out first. If he suspects anything, we move immediately. I showed the texts to Sarah. Her face went pale. Dad, They're going to accelerate. We need to tell Catherine. We went back upstairs. Catherine's assistant said she was in a meeting, but we waited in the conference room. When Catherine came in 5 minutes later and saw our faces, she closed the door immediately. What happened? I told her about Mia appearing in the lobby, showed her the texts. Catherine read them twice. Then she picked up her phone and called Marcus, putting him on speaker. Marcus, we have a situation. They're suspicious. They might move before the party. Can you freeze the accounts today? I can file emergency orders this afternoon, Marcus said through the speaker. But David, the moment those accounts freeze, Mia will know for certain that you're onto them. Better than giving them the chance to drain everything this weekend, Catherine said. She turned to me. David, I need you to make a decision right now. We can file everything today, confront them immediately, and deal with whatever happens. Or we stick to the original plan, but accept the risk that they might move first. I thought about the past week. Every smile, every lie, every moment of performance. I thought about the retirement party in 4 days, the public confrontation we'd planned, the chance to expose them in front of everyone. But I also thought about Dr. Chen, who'd hesitated and lost everything. About Thomas Whitfield, who'd trusted too long and lost his life. File the orders, I said. Today. Right now, Catherine nodded. Marcus, do it. I'll prepare the divorce papers and restraining orders. We'll need law enforcement standing by. I'll contact Detective Crawford, Sarah said. David, Catherine said. You need to get somewhere safe. Not your home. Not anywhere Mia knows about. I have a hotel room already reserved, Sarah said. Dad's been staying there the past 2 nights. I didn't tell you because I wanted him to have a backup. Smart, Catherine said. David, you go there now. Don't go home. Don't talk to Mia. We'll have everything filed within 2 hours. Then we'll coordinate the confrontation on our terms, not theirs. My phone rang. Mia calling. Don't answer, Catherine said. It rang 4 times, then went to voicemail. Seconds later, a text. Where are you? We need to talk. Now. Another text. David, you're scaring me. What's going on? Another, if you don't answer. I'm calling the police. She's panicking. Sarah said. Good. Catherine said. Let her panic. Marcus, how fast can you move? Orders will be filed in 90 minutes. Accounts frozen by end of business today. Then we're doing this now. Catherine started gathering files. David, leave this building through the garage. Sarah, take him to the hotel. Don't tell me where it is in case Mia tries to get information from my office. I'll call you in 2 hours with next steps. What about the party? I asked. Forget the party. We confront them tomorrow. Controlled environment. Law enforcement present. We do this on our timeline now. 10 days until the party became 5 when Kyle made his move. The hotel phone rang at 11 p.m. Sarah asleep on the other bed. The night clerk's voice was nervous. Mr. Sterling. There's a gentleman in the lobby asking for you. Says it's urgent. Won't give his name. Description mid-20s. Athletic. Expensive gym clothes. Kyle. Tell him I'm not available. He says if you don't come down, he's coming up. Security's nervous. 5 minutes. Sarah woke. Where are you going? Kyle's downstairs. Don't. Call police. Restraining order means he can't contact me, but he can be in a public lobby. If I call police, he leaves. This might be my only chance to hear what he's planning. You stay here. If I'm not back in 15 minutes, call Catherine. Kyle waited near the lobby fireplace, hands in pockets. When he saw me, calculation flickered across his face. We need to talk. Your restraining order says otherwise. This is about keeping you alive. That stopped me. Kyle glanced at the clerk, gestured toward the empty business center. 5 minutes. Then I'm gone. Against instinct, I followed. The business center was dark except for emergency lighting. Mia's planning something. Kyle said, something I didn't sign up for. You signed up for fraud, murder in Charlotte. Kyle's jaw tightened. Charlotte was supposed to be different. Thomas was getting suspicious. Mia said we'd walk away. Then she hired that mechanic. I didn't know until after. Convenient. Believe what you want. Point is, Mia doesn't like loose ends. When plans fail, she adapts. Her adaptations tend to be permanent. You're saying she wants to kill me. She's been researching boat accidents past week, specifically sailboat explosions. You own a sailboat docked at the marina, don't you? My blood went cold. Birthday gift 3 years ago. Mia knew about it. She'd suggested I take it out more often. She's been asking me about mechanics. Kyle continued. Ones who work on marine engines. I told her no. That's why I'm here. I'm done. Whatever happens tomorrow, I'm cooperating fully. But you needed to know. Why warn me? Kyle turned from the window. Because I'm not a murderer. Fraud, theft, manipulation. I own that. But Charlotte keeps me up at night. Seeing Whitfield's family at the memorial. He paused. I thought I could live with anything if the money was good enough. Turns out I was wrong. Sincerity in his voice caught me off guard. Not the confident trainer anymore. Someone younger. Scared. In over his head. You realize you're going to prison. Better than accessory to another murder. Kyle showed his phone. Text exchange. Mia asking for mechanic contact 2 hours ago. His response, no. I'm out. Her reply. Then you're a liability too. She threatened you. When Mia calls someone a liability, bad things happen. Ask the Charlotte mechanic. Disappeared 6 months after Whitfield. Warehouse fire in Raleigh. Accidental, they said. Christ. Don't get on that boat. Don't be alone anywhere she might access. Tomorrow I'm telling them everything. All of it. Not for a deal. To make sure she can't hurt anyone else. Kyle moved toward the door. One more thing. Dr. Chen in Portland. Mia wanted to go back for him. Said he probably had more stashed. I talked her out of it. But she's patient. If she gets out somehow. Chen's next. Tell Detective Crawford. Tonight. Already called. Left message. Meeting him 6 a.m. before courthouse. Kyle paused. For what it's worth. You were different. Smarter. That's why Mia's desperate. You outplayed her. She can't stand that. After he left. I stood trying to process. Kyle's warning felt genuine, but it raised stakes impossibly higher. Back in the room. Sarah was on phone with Catherine. I told her everything. Emergency custody. Catherine said, Mia goes straight to jail tomorrow. No delays. And I'm calling Marina now. Lock down your boat. Guard on site. Bomb squad clears it. After Catherine hung up, Sarah looked at me. Kyle just saved your life. Maybe. Or another angle we haven't figured out. But I didn't believe that. Kyle's fear was real. His guilt about Charlotte was real. He'd folded and walked away. Question was whether Mia had already set her final play in motion. My phone buzzed. Crawford. Got Kyle's message. Meeting him 6 a.m. Don't leave hotel. Officer posted outside your door. Bomb squad at Marina Dawn. Then another text. Unknown number. Brief and chilling. You should have signed the papers. David. Now it's too late for easy solutions. Mia. Sarah saw my face. What is it I showed her? She's trying to scare you. Maybe. Or telling me exactly what's coming. Neither of us slept. Outside, officer footsteps, across town, bomb squad suiting up. At 6 a.m., Kyle would confess everything. At 9 a.m., courthouse downtown. This would finally end. One way or another. The bomb squad found it at dawn. 50 pounds of C4 wired to my sailboat's ignition. Crawford called at 6:30. We got it. Your boat's clean now. But if you'd taken it out this weekend like Mia suggested, you'd be at the bottom of the lake. Kyle was right. Kyle's in protective custody. Gave us everything. He's testifying today. What about Mia? Judge Matthews signed emergency custody order. Officers picking her up now. She'll be at courthouse in cuffs by 9. Sarah woke. When I told her about the bomb, her face went pale. Dad, she actually tried to kill you. Not theft anymore, not fraud, attempted murder. Mia had crossed the line Thomas Whitfield's family lived with. My phone rang, unknown number. Older voice, uncertain. David Raymond Chen. From Portland. I received a strange message last night. Your investigator saying I should be careful. That Mia discussed targeting me again. Is that true? My stomach dropped. Kyle mentioned it, and someone warned Chen. It's true. Kyle said Mia wanted to come back for you. Thought you had more hidden. He talked her out of it. But if she ever gets free, you're on her list. Silence. Then I thought it was over. Now I need to look over my shoulder forever. Not if we put her away properly. I need you to testify. Not just about what happened to you, but about the pattern. Show the jury this was systematic. More silence. Chen breathing. Wrestling with decision. Doctor. Chen. You told me testifying gave you back dignity, but it did something else. It protected others. If we don't stop her completely, there will be more victims. Men who won't see it coming. What do you need testimony? Today, if possible. Video deposition. 1 hour might save someone's life. Long pause. Then what time? Noon. Detective Crawford will call you. After we hung up, Sarah looked at me. You're building something. Not just justice for yourself, a net that catches others, or making sure I can sleep at night. Catherine called at 7. Mia's in custody. Picked up at the condo. Not resisting, but not talking. Her lawyer filed motions to suppress bomb evidence, claiming we can't prove she planted it. Can't we? Kyle's testimony says she asked for mechanic contact. Text messages show she researched marine explosives. But without catching her in the act, it's circumstantial. Strong, but not ironclad. Fingerprints on the device wiped clean. Professional-grade explosive, military detonator. This wasn't amateur, so she hired someone. That's our theory. Tracing recent cash withdrawals. Courthouse hearing set for 9. Sarah and I drove downtown through morning rush. Seattle looked normal. People getting coffee, heading to work. I was heading to face the woman who'd tried to turn my boat into my coffin. Catherine met us in the hallway. Change of plans. We're not doing hearing, arraignment. DA filed formal charges. Attempted murder, fraud, conspiracy. This is criminal now. Where's Mia being processed? Brought up in chains. We entered the courtroom. Small, wood-paneled, fluorescent lit. Handful of people in gallery. Media. At 9:05, they brought Mia in. Orange jumpsuit. Handcuffs. Ankle chains. Hair unwashed. Face bare. Diminished. Smaller. But when her eyes found mine, they carried same cold calculation. No remorse. Just evaluation. Measuring angles. Judge entered. Everyone stood. Matthews reviewed papers. Looked at Mia. Ms. Sterling, you're charged with attempted murder, multiple counts wire fraud, identity fraud, conspiracy to commit murder. How do you plead? Mia's lawyer whispered. She leaned to microphone. Not guilty, Your Honor. Voice steady, confident. All theater. Bail hearing next week. Until then, remanded to county jail without bail. The bomb represents clear danger. Your flight risk and threat to witnesses. Gavel banged. Officers moved to escort Mia out. As she passed our table, she slowed, looked directly at me. This isn't over. David, you know that whatever happens here, you'll never feel safe again. I'll always be out there, waiting. Keep moving, officer said, but Mia held my gaze, smiled. Let them lead her away. Catherine touched my arm. That was a threat. We're documenting it. She meant every word. I know. But she's wrong about one thing. What? I already don't feel safe. Haven't since I found that video. But fear isn't keeping me quiet anymore. It's making me louder. Outside, reporters waited. Catherine prepped me to say nothing, but when a young woman asked, Mr. Sterling, what do you want other victims to know? I stopped. That shame is what these people count on. They rely on you being too embarrassed to report it, too proud to admit you were fooled. But staying silent means they find another victim. Speaking up might save someone's life. Reporter nodded, scribbling. Behind her, cameras recorded. Tomorrow, that clip would run on local news. Men like me across the country might see it, recognize their situations, find courage, building something. Sarah had said, not just justice, a net. Maybe she was right. Dr. Patricia Holmes had been my physician for 20 years. One phone call confirmed what instinct already told me. Blood test results arrived by noon. Catherine stepped into the hallway, returned 3 minutes later with tight-lipped satisfaction. HCG level is 2.1. Under 5 is negative. No pregnancy. Mia's lawyer set down her coffee. That's impossible. My client took multiple tests. Catherine opened her laptop, turned the screen. This is from your client's Amazon account. Ordered November 3rd. 5 pre-positive pregnancy tests. Delivered November 5th. She announced pregnancy November 8th. Temperature seemed to drop. Victoria examined the order confirmation, turned to Mia with a look that said we need to talk. Judge Matthews had joined us for settlement discussion. His expression darkened. Ms. Sterling, did you order fake pregnancy tests? Victoria put her hand on Mia's arm. Don't answer. The judge closed his folder. I've seen enough. We're moving to formal arraignment. An hour later, courtroom filled for second time. Mia sat at defense table, gray jumpsuit from county jail. Morning confidence had cracked. Judge Matthews called session to order before arraignment. I'm allowing testimony from additional witnesses. Pattern evidence is relevant to bail. Detective Crawford took stand first. Walked through Charlotte case methodically. Whitfield's death, boat explosion, insurance payout, connection to Mia through fingerprints, facial recognition, Kyle's confession. Next came Marcus Chen, forensic accountant. Financial records spanning 7 years, 6 victims, $4.3 million. Each theft followed identical patterns. Then, unexpected. Courtroom door opened. Dr. Raymond Chen walked in. Catherine leaned over. He insisted on coming in person. Said video wasn't enough. Your Honor. Catherine stood. Doctor. Chen has traveled from Portland. The judge nodded. The witness may approach. Chen walked to stand with careful dignity of someone who'd carried shame and finally set it down. Sworn in. Took seat. Looked directly at Mia. 20 minutes. He told his story. Meeting Michelle. Whirlwind romance. Financial manipulation. Waking to find everything gone. Years of silence. Why stay silent? Catherine asked. Shame. I'm a retired surgeon, 40 years being the expert. Admitting I'd been fooled felt like erasing everything I built. What changed? He looked at me. David Sterling changed it. When he went public, showed it was possible to speak up with dignity and tact. That gave me permission. And when he called yesterday warning me Ms. Sterling might target me again, I realized staying silent was endangering others. Courtroom completely quiet. Mia's lawyer cross-examined, tried poking holes, but damage was done. Chen's testimony wasn't just evidence, it was turning point. After Chen stepped down, judge asked Mia to stand. Ms. Sterling, I'm denying bail. You represent clear danger. Fake pregnancy shows consciousness of guilt. You'll remain in custody until trial. Mia's face stayed impassive, but hands tightened on table. One more thing. I'm recommending additional charges for witness intimidation and obstruction of justice. Gavel down. Officers moved to escort Mia out. This time, she didn't look at me, just walked, still performing confidence as everything collapsed. Outside courthouse. Doctor. Chen waited by steps. Sarah and I found him staring at Seattle skyline. Thank you for coming. He turned. No. Thank you for making it possible. For first time in 3 years. I don't feel like victim. I feel like someone who survived and came out stronger. We stood together. 2 men targeted by same predator. Lived to help bring her down. My phone buzzed. Unknown number. This is Marcus Webb. Phoenix victim Catherine mentioned. Saw news about bomb. I want to help. Whatever you need. Testimony. Records. Anything. I showed Sarah. She smiled. It's spreading. What we started. You, me, Doctor, Chen, Marcus. All of us. That evening, Catherine called. Kyle's cooperation paying off. Given us names of 3 other mechanics. FBI following up. DA in Charlotte reopened Whitfield case officially. Murder charges likely within month. What about Mia trial 6 months out? But between Kyle's testimony, physical evidence, victim statements, conviction almost certain. She's looking at minimum 25 years. Other victims. Marcus Webb testifying tomorrow via video. James Harrison changed his mind. Wants to participate. Even Robert Chen from Austin reached out. All ready to speak. After the call, I felt something unexpected. Not satisfaction, not triumph. Just quiet sense that machinery of justice, slow and imperfect, had finally begun to turn. Doctor. Chen said it best. Didn't feel like victim. Felt like survivor. That's what we all were. Survivors. and everyone who spoke made it easier for the next. Sarah knocked. "I'm ordering dinner." "Thai, okay, perfect." She paused. "You know what I realized watching Dr. Chen? What this isn't just about punishing Mia. It's about changing conversation, making it so next guy knows he can speak up, knows shame isn't the answer. That's the goal. Then we're succeeding." Later, lying in dark hotel room, I thought about chain reaction. Dr. Chen silent 3 years, Marcus Webb 4, James Harrison 2, but now all speaking. Somewhere, someone else targeted was watching news, seeing our faces, hearing stories, realizing they weren't alone. Worth more than recovered money, more than Mia going to prison, more than anything. Silence was broken. Once broken, couldn't be repaired. 3 days. That's all the breathing room before Kyle's lawyer found a technicality. Tuesday morning, Catherine called while Sarah and I packed to move back to the lake house. Her voice carried an edge I hadn't heard before. Kyle's attorney filed motion to suppress his confession, claims duress, that he feared for safety and wasn't properly advised of rights. But he volunteered everything. That's what we argued. Judge reviewing now. If she grants it, we lose Kyle's testimony. Half our case disappears. The Charlotte murder circumstantial without Kyle. Financial fraud stands. But attempted murder gets shaky. Mia could walk on serious charges. Sarah stopped folding. After everything, there's more. Mia's lawyer filed emergency bail reconsideration, arguing without Kyle's testimony. State doesn't have enough to hold her. Hearing Thursday morning, 2 days away. Yes. And if bail's granted, even with ankle monitor, you know what happens. She disappears. Like after Charlotte, exactly. Victoria Chen's arguing community ties, no prior record under current identity, presumption of innocence. After hanging up, the hotel felt smaller. 3 weeks in suitcases. Lake House waited, promised sanctuary. But if Mia made bail, nowhere would be safe. Detective Crawford called next. "You heard about Kyle's motion just now. Can it work?" "Technically, yes." His lawyers arguing sleep deprivation, emotional compromise, fear. If judge buys it, everything becomes inadmissible. What about the bomb squad report stands? But connecting it to Mia without Kyle gets harder. Mechanic disappeared years ago. Danny Ross is our only hope, and his credibility is shaky. So financial fraud only. Solid. But maybe 10 years maximum. Out in 6 with good behavior. Other victims, those cases are weaker without Kyle establishing pattern. Silence stretched. 3 weeks potentially unraveling over one procedural error. There's something else. We monitored Mia's jail calls. She made one to unknown number yesterday. 30 seconds. Said Thursday and hung up. She has help outside been planning contingencies since arrest. If she makes bail Thursday, she'll have transportation waiting. Money stashed. Maybe new identity. Can you trace it? Burner phone. Dead now. That evening, Marcus Webb called from Phoenix. Voice carrying concern of someone who'd lost once already. "David, I heard about bail hearing. If she gets out, she'll run. Once gone, she'll start over. New name, new city, new victim. That's what we're preventing. Is there anything I can do? Catherine's got everything from you. Now it's waiting for judge's decision. Waiting is what these people count on. They know legal system moves slowly. Victims get tired, scared, give up. I'm not giving up. Good. Because we're not just fighting for ourselves. We're fighting for every guy after us. Every lonely widower who thinks he found someone special. If we let her walk, we're abandoning them. His words echoed, every guy after us, weight of responsibility heavier than financial loss. Wednesday passed in anxious preparation. Catherine filed 17 pages of opposition. Crawford compiled evidence not relying on Kyle. Dr. Chen flew back, insisting he'd testify again. Thursday morning arrived gray and cold. November pressing down like unresolved cases. Courtroom more crowded, media in gallery, Dr. Chen behind our table. Marcus flew in overnight beside him. James Harrison from Denver in back row. 9 a.m. They brought Mia in. Same gray jumpsuit. Calculated composure. But something changed in her eyes. Predator sensing weakness. Judge Matthews took bench. We convened yesterday on 2 motions. First, Kyle Morrison's motion to suppress. Second, Ms. Sterling's bail reconsideration. Courtroom held breath. I've reviewed arguments carefully. On first motion, I find Mr. Morrison's confession was voluntary. He came of own accord, properly advised, had opportunity for counsel. Motion to suppress is denied. Relief flooded through me. Catherine's hand tightened on table. Judge continued. On second motion, I find Ms. Sterling represents clear, ongoing danger to witnesses. Bomb evidence combined with pattern across states demonstrates flight risk and threat to safety. Bail is denied. Ms. Sterling remains in custody pending trial. Gavel down, final, irrevocable. Mia's posture collapsed. Not surrender. Recognition this play had failed. Officers moved to escort her, passing our table. She didn't threaten, just looked with something almost like respect. You really thought this through. Every step. I learned from the best. You taught me to plan ahead, think strategically, never show my hand until right moment. First time since I'd met her. Mia actually smiled. Real, not performed. Then you're a better student than I gave you credit for. They led her away. Doors closed behind her. Outside, sunshine broke through clouds. Marcus and Dr. Chen waited on steps. It's really over this time, Chen said. Catherine joined us. Trial set for March. 6 months. With Kyle's testimony admissible and physical evidence intact. Conviction all but guaranteed. You should be proud. Speaking up together made the difference. What happens now? Marcus asked. Now we make sure no one else goes through this alone. They set the table with my best china, opened my most expensive wine, and prepared to serve me papers that would sign away everything I'd built. But I brought my own documents. The hearing that morning had gone exactly as planned. Judge Matthews revoked Mia's house arrest based on the Vancouver property evidence. She was taken into custody immediately, held without bail pending trial. Her lawyer had objected strenuously, but the evidence was overwhelming. But that wasn't the end. Catherine had arranged one final meeting before Mia was transferred to county jail, a last chance for her to cooperate, to provide information about hidden assets, to potentially reduce her charges by helping recover funds. The meeting was scheduled for 7 p.m. at Catherine's office. Controlled environment, law enforcement present, everything recorded. I arrived early with Sarah. Catherine was already there. Documents spread across the conference table. Detective Crawford sat in the corner. 2 uniformed officers stood by the door. This is unusual, Catherine said. But given the complexity of the financial fraud, the DA's office thinks it's worth trying to get her cooperation before formal charges are filed. Will she talk? Maybe. She's facing serious time. If she helps recover the money, if she testifies against Kyle, she might get a reduced sentence. At 7 exactly. They brought Mia in. She wore an orange jumpsuit, handcuffs, ankle shackles. Her hair was pulled back in a messy ponytail. No makeup. She looked smaller somehow, diminished. When she saw me, something flickered in her eyes. Not remorse, not shame, something colder. They sat her across from us. The officers remained standing. Ms. Sterling, Catherine began. You've been advised of your rights. Your attorney is on the phone. She gestured to the speakerphone. Do you understand why we're here? Mia's voice was flat. You want me to help you find money. We want you to cooperate with the investigation. In exchange, the DA is willing to consider reduced charges. What charges am I facing? Multiple counts of wire fraud, identity fraud, conspiracy. And depending on what the Charlotte investigation determines, potentially conspiracy to commit murder. I didn't kill anyone. But you knew Thomas Whitfield was going to die, Detective Crawford said from the corner. You set it up. Kyle executed it. That makes you an accessory. Mia turned to look at Crawford. Then she smiled. It wasn't warm. Prove it. We have the insurance documents, the boat service records, the fake mechanic Kyle hired. We have financial records showing you collected $1.8 million. We have Kyle's phone records placing him at the marina the morning of the explosion. Circumstantial, Mia said. All of it. Maybe. But combined with the Portland case and what you tried to do to David, it establishes pattern. That's enough for a jury. Mia turned back to me. Her eyes were empty. You know what the funny thing is? David, I almost liked you. You were sweet, grateful, easy to manage. If you'd just signed the papers at the party like you were supposed to, none of this would be happening. You'd be gone with my money, I said, and you'd be none the wiser. You'd have your retirement party stories. Your friends would feel sorry for you. Maybe in a few years you'd meet someone else and try again. But instead, you had to be smart, had to investigate, had to ruin everything. I ruined your plan to rob me. Our plan, she said, glancing at the officers. Kyle and I, we've been partners for 7 years. Portland, Charlotte, Seattle. We have it down to a science. Target lonely older men, usually recently divorced. Build trust. Isolate them from family. Move the money. Disappear. Simple. How many others? Sarah asked. Mia looked at her. More than you've found. How many? Does it matter? They were all the same. Desperate men who wanted to believe someone young and beautiful could love them. Your father wasn't special. He was just next in line. The room was silent. Catherine leaned forward. If you cooperate, if you help us identify the other victims, the DA will recommend 15 years instead of 25. And Kyle's already talking, Crawford said. He's giving you up to save himself. Right now, he's in Charlotte telling prosecutors you masterminded everything, that you planned Whitfield's murder, that you're the dangerous one. Mia's expression didn't change, but her hands tightened. He wouldn't. He already has. Crawford pulled out a document, signed statement 2 hours ago. According to Kyle, you approached him 7 years ago with the scheme. You picked the targets. You managed the manipulation. He was just muscle. That's bullshit. Maybe. But it's his word against yours now. And he's cooperating. You're not. Who do you think the jury will believe? Mia sat back. Her jaw worked. What exactly do you want? Every account, every hidden asset, every victim, full cooperation, complete testimony, and I get what, 15 years. Eligibility for parole in 10. She looked at me. What do you get out of this? David, I get my money back. I get justice for Dr. Chen and Thomas Whitfield. I get to make sure you never do this to anyone else. Very noble. She smiled without warmth. Fine. I'll cooperate. But I want the deal in writing first. Catherine slid papers across the table. Already prepared, Mia read through them carefully. Then she looked at her lawyer on the phone. Should I sign? A woman's voice came through the speaker. It's a reasonable deal given the evidence. I recommend you take it. Mia picked up the pen. Before she signed, she looked at me one more time. You want to know the truth? David, it was never personal. You were just a transaction. A retirement fund. That's all any of you were. She signed the papers when Catherine Morrison walked through that door with Detective Crawford behind her. I watched Mia's face finally show fear. But that moment had already passed. We were past the fear now, past the initial shock of discovery. This was the end of something that had taken weeks to orchestrate and seconds to collapse. After Mia signed the cooperation agreement, the real work began. Catherine pulled out a laptop and opened a spreadsheet. Let's start with the accounts. She said, How many are there? Mia shifted in her handcuffs. 7 that I know of. Kyle managed most of them. Wear Caymans, obviously. 1 in Switzerland, 2 in Singapore, 1 in Panama, and 1 in British Columbia that you already found. Total amount across all accounts. Mia hesitated. Around 4.3 million. The room went silent. That was more than double what Marcus had traced. 4.3 million from how many victims? Crawford asked. Mia looked at her lawyer on the phone, then back at us. 6. Including David. 6 men. $4.3 million. An average of over 700,000 per victim. Names, Catherine said, pulling out a legal pad. Mia listed them methodically, like she was reading a grocery list. Dr. Raymond Chen, Portland, Thomas Whitfield, Charlotte, David Sterling, Seattle. Then 3 others we hadn't found. A real estate developer in Phoenix named Marcus Webb, a retired airline pilot in Denver named James Harrison, and a software executive in Austin named Robert Chen. No relation to the Portland doctor. Marcus Webb, Crawford repeated, writing quickly. When 2016, before Portland, and he's still alive. As far as I know, we took about 600,000 from him. He never reported it. Why not? Mia's expression was flat. Same reason, doctor. Chen didn't. Shame. He'd rather lose the money than admit he was conned by a woman half his age. What about the pilot James Harrison, 2018, between Portland and Charlotte? We got about 400,000 from him. Still alive. Yes. He reported it to Denver police, but had no proof. We'd covered our tracks too well. And Robert Chen in Austin, 2021. After Seattle fell through, we needed cash fast. Got about 800,000 from him before he got suspicious, and we had to bail. So Thomas Whitfield in Charlotte was the only one who died. Crawford said. Mia looked down at her handcuffs. Yes. Walk me through it. Her lawyer's voice came through the speaker. Do you need to? You have immunity for cooperation. They need to know, Mia said. If I'm doing this, I'm doing it completely. She looked up at Crawford. Thomas Whitfield wasn't supposed to die. That wasn't the plan. What was the plan? Same as always. Build trust, isolate him from family, move the money, disappear. But Thomas was different. He started asking questions about the investment accounts. He wanted to meet Kyle's supposed business partners. He was getting suspicious. So you decided to kill him. Kyle decided I was against it at first. Too risky. Too many ways it could go wrong. But Kyle said we'd already put in 8 months of work. We couldn't just walk away with nothing. How did it happen? Kyle found someone who knew boats. A mechanic who'd lost his commercial license for fraud. Paid him $10,000 cash to sabotage the fuel system. Timed explosive that would trigger 15 minutes after the engine started. Thomas went out for routine maintenance on a Saturday morning. Alone. The boat exploded in the middle of the lake, and you collected the insurance. $1.8 million. Split it 50-50 with Kyle. Catherine was typing rapidly on her laptop. We'll need the mechanic's name. Danny Ross. Lived in Charlotte at the time. Don't know where he is now. Crawford made a note. We'll find him. Is there anyone else? Catherine asked. Anyone we haven't talked about? Mia shook her head. Those 6 are it. What about the Vancouver property, the Canadian accounts? That was our exit strategy. We bought the condo 6 months ago when we started planning David's job. Figured if anything went wrong, we'd have a place to disappear to. Canada's easier to get lost in than people think. The money in British Columbia, about $900,000, mostly from David's accounts. We were moving it slowly so he wouldn't notice. Where are the account numbers? Mia looked at her lawyer on the phone again. Then at Catherine. I need my phone. Everything's in a secure app. What app? Encrypted messenger. Password protected, account numbers, contact information for the other victims. Everything. Where's the phone evidence locker? Catherine looked at Detective Crawford. Can we access it with her cooperation? Yes. Crawford pulled out his phone. I'll call the evidence clerk. While we waited, Mia looked at me. You really want all this? Knowing what I did. Knowing it was never real, I want the truth. I said, all of it. The truth is, I'm good at what I do. Was good at it. Kyle and I made almost $5 million over 7 years. We had a system. We were careful. And if you hadn't gotten suspicious, we'd still be out there. How do you live with yourself? Mia shrugged. I don't think about it. They were marks, transactions. You give people what they want. They give you what you have. That's business. That's theft. She smiled slightly. Semantics. An officer brought in Mia's phone in an evidence bag. Catherine opened it and handed it to Mia. Pull up everything. For the next hour, Mia walked us through every account, every victim, every transaction. Catherine documented it all. Marcus verified what he could in real time. Detective Crawford made calls to police departments in Phoenix, Denver, and Austin. By the time we finished, it was after 10 p.m. Mia looked exhausted. The officers who'd brought her were waiting to transfer her to county jail before they took her away. She looked at me one more time. For what it's worth, you were different from the others. Smarter. More careful. If you'd been like the rest, this would have worked. That's not a compliment, I said. No, she agreed. I suppose it's not. They led her out. The door closed. Silence filled the conference room. Catherine looked at me. How do you feel? like it's finally over. It's not over, she said gently. There's still the trial, the restitution proceedings, civil suits from the other victims, criminal charges in multiple states. This is going to take years to fully resolve. But the worst part is over. Sarah said. Yes. Catherine agreed. The worst part is over. The legal battle took 3 months, but the healing that would take longer. Winter turned to spring while the machinery of justice ground forward. Mia's cooperation accelerated things considerably. Within 2 weeks of her confession, authorities had frozen all 7 offshore accounts. The $4.3 million was there, exactly as she'd said. Kyle fought extradition from Charlotte for 6 weeks before finally giving up. His lawyer had advised him to take a deal, but Kyle believed he could beat the charges. He was wrong. The combination of Mia's testimony, Detective Crawford's investigation, and the physical evidence from the Whitfield boat explosion buried him. He was sentenced to 25 years for conspiracy to commit murder, with additional consecutive sentences for fraud. Mia got her 15 years as promised. With good behavior, she'd be eligible for parole in 10. Her lawyer had argued for less, claiming she'd been manipulated by Kyle, but Judge Matthews wasn't buying it. You were the architect. He'd said at sentencing. You chose the victims. You managed the scheme. The fact that you cooperated doesn't erase what you did. The mechanic, Danny Ross, was arrested in Raleigh living under an assumed name. He took a plea deal immediately and got 8 years in exchange for testifying against Kyle. The other victims started coming forward. Marcus Webb from Phoenix flew to Seattle to meet with me and Catherine. He was 62 now, running a smaller real estate operation than he'd had before Mia and Kyle took his money. We compared notes, realized how identical the playbook had been. The isolation, the financial manipulation, the retirement party that never happened because he'd gotten suspicious too early. I'm glad you fought back, he told me. I didn't have the courage. I just let them take it and tried to pretend it never happened. You're fighting now, I said. Your testimony matters. James Harrison, the retired airline pilot from Denver, was harder to track down. He'd moved to Montana after his experience with Mia and Kyle, bought a small ranch, and wanted nothing to do with the legal proceedings. Detective Crawford finally convinced him that his testimony could help ensure they stayed in prison. He agreed to testify via video deposition. Robert Chen from Austin was the most recent victim before me. He'd only lost contact with Kyle and Mia 8 months ago. When he learned about the arrests, he broke down during the phone call with Catherine. I thought I was the only one. He kept saying, I thought I was the only one stupid enough to fall for it. The asset recovery process was complex. The offshore accounts were frozen. But getting the money back to the victims took months of legal wrangling across multiple jurisdictions. In the end, each victim received approximately 60% of what they'd lost. Not complete justice, but better than nothing. I recovered just over $200,000 of the $342,000 they'd taken from me. The lake house deed was reversed once the fraud was proven. My investment accounts were restored. The life insurance policy was corrected. Financially, I would survive. But the other costs were harder to calculate. My reputation in Seattle's business community took a hit. People were sympathetic, but there was an undercurrent of judgment. How could someone so successful in business be so naive in his personal life? The whispers followed me to networking events, charity functions, anywhere the old crowd gathered. After 2 months of that, I made a decision. I sold the downtown condo. Too many memories, Too much association with Mia and that whole period of my life. I moved to the lake house in Coeur d'Alene full-time. The place I'd bought for her became my refuge. Sarah visited every other weekend. Our relationship had healed completely. If anything, we were closer now than we'd been before Mia entered my life. She'd taken a week off work to help me move and set up the lake house. "You're really staying here?" she asked as we unpacked boxes in the living room overlooking the water. "For now. Maybe permanently. Seattle has too many ghosts." "What will you do?" "I've been consulting part-time, helping small businesses with growth strategy, on my terms, my schedule, and I've been thinking about starting a support group." "For what?" "For men who've been through financial fraud, especially older men targeted by younger partners. There's shame attached to it that keeps people silent. I want to change that." "Dad, that's a great idea. I met with Dr. Chen in Portland again. He drove up to Coeur d'Alene in March, and we spent an afternoon on my deck overlooking the lake. He'd received his portion of the recovered funds and seemed lighter somehow, less burdened. "How does it feel?" I asked. "Getting some of it back. Honestly, the money helps. But what helps more is knowing she's in prison, that she can't do this to anyone else. That's how I feel too." He looked out at the water. "You know what I realized? I spent 3 years being ashamed of what happened, hiding from it, pretending it didn't matter. But talking to you, testifying at the trial, being part of stopping them, that gave me something back that the money never could." "What's that dignity?" We sat in comfortable silence after that. Two men who'd survived the same kind of predator and lived to help take her down. In April, the Seattle Times published an article about the case. The reporter, Janet Browning, had approached me months earlier. I'd initially declined, but Catherine convinced me that telling the story publicly might help other victims come forward. The article was titled, "The Retirement Con: How a Seattle Executive Helped Expose a Multi-State Fraud Ring." It detailed the entire scheme, from my discovery of the video to Mia's confession and sentencing. The reporter had interviewed all 6 victims who were willing to speak. The response was overwhelming. Within a week, I received over 100 emails from people who'd experienced similar scams or knew someone who had. Many were men in their 50s and 60s who'd never reported what happened to them. The shame, they said, was worse than the financial loss. That's when I knew the support group wasn't just a good idea. It was necessary. I started Second Chances After 50 in May. We met weekly at a community center in Coeur d'Alene. The first meeting had 8 men. By June, we had 23 regular attendees. We shared stories, offered support, and most importantly, removed the shame that kept people silent. One evening in late June, Sarah called with news. "Dad, I'm engaged." Her voice was so happy that I felt my throat tighten. "That's wonderful, sweetheart. Tell me about him." "His name is Michael. He's an architect. Works at my firm. We've been dating for 8 months. I wanted to wait until everything with your situation settled before telling you. You don't have to protect me from good news. I know. But I wanted to be sure you were okay first." "I'm okay. Better than okay. I'm healing. Good. Because I want you to walk me down the aisle. And Dad, I want you to know that watching you handle everything that happened, the way you fought back with dignity, the way you didn't let shame silence you, that taught me something important about strength." After we hung up, I sat on my deck watching the sun set over Lake Coeur d'Alene. 6 months ago, I'd been hiding in a Bellevue hotel room, waiting for a hearing that would determine my future. Now I was here, financially stable, emotionally healing, with my daughter's wedding to look forward to, and meaningful work helping others recover from similar trauma. The legal battle was over. Mia and Kyle were in prison. The money was mostly recovered. Justice, imperfect, but real, had been served. Now the real work of rebuilding could begin. 6 months after my 54th birthday, I stood at the starting line of the Seattle Marathon. At my age, people questioned why. But I knew exactly why. The race began 7:30 on a Sunday morning in late June, overcast, cool enough for running. I'd trained 3 months, building endurance, proving age was just a number. Sarah stood with me, not running, just supporting. You don't have to do this. Dad, this isn't about proving anything. It's about finishing what I started. The gun went off. Thousands surged forward. I found my pace, settled into rhythm. Running gave me time to process everything. The discovery, investigation, trial, recovery, all of it had been a marathon. And now I was running an actual one to mark completion. At mile 6, I thought about the night I found the video, how my world collapsed in 3 minutes, how I'd made the strategic decision not to confront Mia immediately. That decision saved me. At mile 13, I thought about Dr. Chen, Marcus Webb, James Harrison, Robert Chen, 4 men who'd experienced same thing. Together, we'd broken the silence. At mile 18, legs burning, I thought about Thomas Whitfield, the man who didn't survive. I ran for him. At mile 23, I thought about the support group, men gathering weekly to share stories. Removing shame had given us dignity back, and hope. At mile 26, finish line in sight, I thought about Sarah, her wedding in September. Walking her down the aisle, I crossed at 4 hours 37 minutes. Not fast, but I'd finished. Sarah waited with water and medal, hugged me hard. I'm so proud of you. That afternoon, I drove to Coeur d'Alene. Lake House had become home. My phone rang that evening. Unknown number, Mr. Sterling woman's voice. I'm Linda Martinez. I read the Seattle Times article. Something similar happened to my father 3 years ago. He never reported it. Too ashamed. But after reading your story, he's ready to talk. Over following weeks, I talked to Linda's father, George. Retired surgeon. Lost $400,000. Never fought back. Why didn't you report it? Same reason most don't. Spent 40 years being respected. Admitting I'd been fooled felt like erasing everything I'd built. But you're talking now, because you did first. You showed it was possible to survive with dignity intact. In August, second chances after 50 expanded. Online meetings for men who couldn't attend in person. George was first remote attendee. Within month, participants from 12 states. The work gave me purpose. Every week. Men who'd carried shame for years finally set it down. Late August, email from Detective Crawford. Kyle denied parole. Earliest reapplication 5 years. Mia's first hearing 2 years out. Unlikely to get it. Both behind bars for foreseeable future. I looked at the lake, sun setting, painting water orange and gold. I tried to feel triumph, but what I felt was quieter. Relief they couldn't hurt anyone else. Gratitude I'd survived. Hope for future. Sarah's wedding 2 weeks away. Michael was good man. Treated my daughter with respect and genuine love. Real love existed, not what I'd had with Mia, something honest. Week before wedding, I started writing guide. Starting over after financial fraud. A personal journey. 30 pages practical advice mixed with reflection. Posted online free. Within month, 10,000 downloads. Comments filled with stories. People thanking me for breaking silence. One comment. I'm 62. Thought my life was over. Your story showed me it's not. Thank you for hope. That felt like victory. Sarah's wedding day was perfect. September in Coeur d'Alene. Clear skies, lake sparkling, walking Sarah down aisle. I thought about how close I'd come to missing this. How if Mia's plan had worked, I might have been too broken to be present for my daughter's biggest day. But I was here. Whole. Healed. That evening, Sarah pulled me aside. Thank you, Dad, for surviving, for fighting, for being here. Where else would I be? She hugged me. I love you. Later, alone under stars, I opened laptop, started writing memoir, chapter 1, the video. Just 6 more weeks, and when everything is finalized, I'll leave him with an empty nest and vanish with you. Those were my wife's words to her lover. I wrote until midnight, telling story from beginning. Not to relive pain, but to document journey. To show betrayal doesn't have to be end. Age doesn't mean vulnerability. Never too late to start over. At 54 and a half, I was beginning again. Not life I'd planned, but maybe better. Built on truth instead of illusion. Strength instead of desperation. Hope instead of fear. The marathon wasn't just race. It was metaphor. You don't have to be fast. Just keep moving forward until you cross finish line. I'd crossed mine. On the other side, I'd found something unexpected. Peace.